So we're making our stuffing for our goose that we're going to be roasting tomorrow morning. So this is the night before, and what we want to do is get all of our stuffing together. So what I've done is chopped 2 apples, 2 pears, some parsley stalks, about 50 grams of parsley stalk, 200 grams of dried figs and dried prunes that I've chopped up, that I'm also going to marinate just in enough red wine to cover them so they soak in that red wine. Soak that red wine in. Just a good full-bodied red wine. 2 oranges zested and 2 lemons zested, and that works into the prunes and the figs and the red wine so they can stay cold. And what we're going to do now is fry the onions in olive oil with the apples, the parsley stalk, some dried thyme, dried sage, and a little bit of fresh sage as well because I couldn't get that much fresh. And then we're going to work that into the pork mince that we've got. 2 kilos of pork mince is probably too much, but it's always good to have too much than too little. And then we're going to stuff the goose from behind and into the front. But we're going to do the stuffing first. So we'll just cook the onions and the apples, and then we'll come back. So now we're going to just slowly fry the onions. So I've got 4 small onions and 5 cloves of garlic that I've roughly chopped, or finely chopped, sorry, and I'm going to cook those off slowly in the olive oil in the pan. So just putting those in there, slowly cooking those. And what I've got in here for tomorrow, the sauce, is some chicken stock that I had pre-prepared, and then I've put the wings of the goose and also the neck of the goose into the stock. So, and then I've just added some carrots and some parsley stalks and some garlic and onion scraps, and that's just to flavour that stock for tomorrow. And that is going to mix with the pan juices of the goose, and then that's going to be our end sauce. So what we've done is we've cooked down the onions and the garlic, and we've also added the thyme, dried thyme, and also some dried sage to the mix, and also heavily seasoned it with sea salt. So you can see that it's cooked, all those onions are cooked right down, and the smell of the raw onion and the garlic is gone. So what we want to do now is add the apples and the pear to this mix, and remembering the parsley stalk's already in there, and then just folding that through and just cooking that in to the onion mix until it's just about to fall apart, because we don't want to turn it into a stew. We just want to warm it all through. And then what we're going to do then is take it off the heat, mix it in with the prunes and the figs that have been soaked in red wine, and then we'll mix it through the pork belly. So as I said before, there's probably too much, but that's okay because we can always save it and use it for something else. But what we're going to do is just cool it down first before you add it to the meat, especially if we're making it the night before, because tomorrow obviously we're going to be stuffing that bird, so we need to cool it down before we actually stuff it into the bird, and make sure it all goes into the refrigerator so it doesn't make your pork mince go off if you're leaving it for some time. Okay? So just mixing that through. Probably about 5 minutes, and then leaving it cool, and then adding it to our mix. So the last part of the stuffing is mixing it all together. So what we're going to do is actually put the prunes and the figs and the wine in with the apples, and you can see just with the apple that it's just been cooked through, so the texture of the apples and the pears are still there, and I've cooled it down, and we're going to mix that prune mixture through the apple and the pear and the onions. And I've seasoned it well with sea salt and ground fresh black pepper, and I've also put a little bit more salt in with the pork, and we'll just mix that all in together. I'll just put it in this way so you can see. And then just mixing that into the pork belly, so it's again just over 1.5 kilos of minced pork belly. So we want the fat because we don't want it to end up being dry, because we are going to cook the goose for at least 4 hours on 160 degrees. So I just want to mix that right through, and then we'll just leave that overnight so all of the flavouring of this stuffing will get right into the meat. So if you were a little bit worried about the stuffing not having enough seasoning, just take a little bit of it and then just make it into a little patty, and then you can always quickly roast it on the stove, and then you can just taste it and check it for seasoning. So you want it to be heavily seasoned, because obviously you're going to be wanting to season that whole bird with this stuffing, so make sure it is heavily seasoned with salt and pepper. So it's the next day, and we've got our goose here, and then we've also got the stuffing, and what I've done is